So now, what was the procedure I just gave you a little while ago as a reminder? If the imbalance is bullish, you want to see it stay above its midpoint, which is consequent encroachment. Its most sensitivity should be at the high of it or the first quadrant from the high. So does it come back down at all? It may not need to come back down. It may just keep on going higher. But if it does trade down here, we want to watch and observe any sensitivity on that. So 4155.50. Whoops, don't want to do that one. There we go. So you're going to watch the consequent encroachment, the midpoint from consequent encroachment to the high of that shaded area, and the high in that little bit of a range. We've hit it here, and we'll see, does it have a willingness to want to run to 41.70 1/4? Now, it's not a trade. Okay, I'm not telling you to buy it. But what you're doing is when you're watching the tape like this, you're looking for these types of things to form, and it gives you feedback in terms of reading what price is likely to do next. If this were, for instance, say it was another day, it wasn't CPI, and say it was after 9:30, and we had worked off the first few minutes of trading, and now we're in a better position to trust a scenario. These instances here, I would like to see it stay in the upper portion of that shaded area. It's already showing a willingness to not want to do that here, which is typical because we still have time before we get to 9:30. And it's just gyrating back and forth, chopping up, getting people in, getting people stopped out. So you have to be mindful of that. But if I ever describe a fair value gap that I like, what my eye goes to if I'm bullish, I'm looking at the high of the fair value gap, which would be represented like this. Okay, so that's the fair value gap high, the consequent encroachment, and then the midpoint between that. Okay, so there's very, very specific three levels. And if I buy, and I'm not suggesting you should be doing that here, I'm just giving you real-time commentary and what I mean by watching the fair value gaps. If it trades down to it here, and I'm bullish, right? The idea would be I would enter there, and then if it goes down to the midpoint between the consequent encroachment and the high of that, I would use that also as an entry. And if it touches the midpoint, I would use that as an entry. But I would not want to see it trade like it's doing here, because if I had a stop loss, like for instance, when it started going through the midpoint when it was trading right there, that right there would have stopped me from saying, okay, my stop will be right below here. Why? Because it's below the fair value gap, and that's the low outside of that gap. So my stop would be there. And once it got to this point here, I would kill it. I would abort the trade. And I wouldn't feel bad about it. I wouldn't second guess. I wouldn't worry about it. It'd be done, because holding on to it and watching it get stopped out when you know that your procedures and processes tell you it's not likely to be favorable for you to hold on to it. That's why you have rules. You have to have rules of engagement. You have to know what you're looking for, what you don't want to see, and they have to be routine. They have to be written down. They have to be understood, and you know them like the back of your hand. And only then do you get to the point where most of you ask me questions like, how do I know? How do I trust? How do you know it's just a matter of experience and seeing it over and over again. Much in the same way, when you see things that you don't want to see, you trust that that's better for you to exit the marketplace. And you're not worried about missing out if you would have stayed in. It's better, as soon as you see something that's problematic, you're never wrong. Okay, listen to me. You're never wrong trying to preserve capital. See that little volume imbalance here we hit? Small little volume imbalance in there. Went right up into it there after we left this fair value gap. So now watch consequent encroachment down here on this wick. You never are wrong by trying to preserve capital, because that's your number one responsibility.